Hey guys, Hank here. Welcome back for Seconds at the Buffet, where today I'm reviewing what many, including myself, consider to be the best game ever made. I'm of course talking about Elden Ring. Yeah, I know, a bold proclamation from a guy that purchased Dark Souls on the PS3, played about 10 minutes of it, and to this day still has never touched it again. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on the difficulty of Elden Ring. I think that's been kind of beaten to death and talked about ad nauseum, but suffice to say, it's a very challenging game, even with all the crazy builds and the over-leveling you can do. The challenge, though, is one of the main reasons why this is such a satisfying experience, and I think it's this challenge that a lot of modern games lack or have lost in their goal to appeal to as broad an audience as possible. The start of Elden Ring is a lot like Breath of the Wild. You start in a cave, and then you're exposed to this giant world. And if you blew right past the tutorial cave like I did, then it's basically identical. You emerge into this vast world from the dark, cramped corridors of the dungeon you were just in, juxtaposed against this huge environment. In the distance amongst the grass and shrubs is a large armored fella on a horse. A church behind him up the hill captures your view, beckoning you towards it, and looming far over the horizon is this massive golden tree. The game does a clever trick here. You naturally assume you have to go forward and go fight that enemy on the horse. Unfortunately, he is significantly more powerful than you and will 99% of the time instantly turn you into a bloody pulp. Like how Melania turned me into a bloody pulp over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. Sorry. This is where Elden Ring really flexes its core strength as a game. You can beat your head against this enemy until you get so good at evading and timing to eventually kill him, or you can simply go around him and continue on with your adventure. Most games would use this as an opportunity to throw 100 pop-up messages at you saying, "Oh, this guy's too strong, you should come back later."
Hey, listen!
Or they do the old fake out and whisk you away with a magical plot-supported teleport. The genius of this design philosophy is that instead of a quest designer giving you explicit instructions or waypoints, you guide yourself. Do you want to make the game hard? Okay, go fight the guy. Do you want to go around this guy and come back later? Sure. Want to run to the back of the structure you just came out of and start exploring first? Go for it. It truly is the embodiment of the term open world. This is not to say there isn't some gentle guidance from the developer as to where to go next, but it's far more subtle, and the environment itself is often the catalyst. This design is something a lot of old games did. They were hard and they didn't hold your hand all the way through. A great example of a fairly similar design philosophy is World of Warcraft, which in hindsight is hilarious saying that since at the time it was considered too casual for the hardcore MMO players. The questing in World of Warcraft, though, is a bit more straightforward than Elden Ring, in that it actually told you where to go in the quest text, or you need to kill X number of things or go collect X number of items. It told you where on the map to go and do this, but it didn't drop a waypoint for you and just send you out on autopilot. You had to go find it for yourself and discover this on your own with the information you were given. This meant that sometimes you'd get quests that would deliberately take you through parts of the zone or parts of other zones that were much higher level than you. It really instilled that sense of danger. Elden Ring portrays this danger really well in its environment. It doesn't do questing quite as well, but we'll talk more about that in a minute. Most games do an experience type system where you get a certain amount of experience for every monster you kill or every quest you complete. Elden Ring tweaks this a little bit. You acquire runes as you slay enemies, and you carry those runes with you. When you die, you'll drop all the runes you were carrying, but you have a chance to get them back if you can make it back to where you died. The catch is, if you die on your way back to your runes, they're gone forever. and when you die, everything respawns, which can make dying in certain areas far trickier than others. Dungeons are often very dangerous places because of this. You'll acquire a lot of runes as you do a dungeon, and there's usually only 1 or 2 sites of grace, one at the beginning and one after you've killed the boss. So when you die, you have to go all the way back to your body, and you have to fight all those enemies all over again, and some of them are really, really challenging. The fear is real. And you'll spend those runes on everything in the game, from crafting materials to weapons and armor, and it's also the currency you use to level up. I think this is one of the smartest systems I've seen in any game. It really makes you think about your choice. Do you spend your runes on upgrading your weapons? Or do you collect more and then upgrade your character with more attribute points? The choices carry a lot of weight. That sense of danger and your own personal adventure are intertwined so well that when you do progress and get stronger, it really does make a tangible difference. However strong you get, though, a small enemy can still kill you if you're not paying attention. The world is massive and full of dangerous creatures to fight. Thankfully, FromSoft has placed a lot of sites of grace all over the map. Sites of grace are save points that you'll respawn at when you die, and you will die a lot. But they also function as fast travel points, and the spot where you're going to upgrade your character, mix potions, and do all the housekeeping required in an RPG. And speaking of fighting, you have a world of options available to you to fight all those dangerous creatures. My build changed multiple times throughout my playthrough, and I went from a heavily armored, shield-carrying, longsword-wielding knight to a more agile, samurai sword-wielding warrior with high dexterity to a mage that could literally down bosses with a single powerful spell cast. Magic is definitely overpowered, and you can use it as a crutch at times, but it also comes with some trade-offs. There's a real dance between your weaknesses as certain classes and your strengths. Some bosses are pretty stationary and are therefore a lot more vulnerable to magic use because it's a lot easier to cast spells that are more powerful and take more time, while others are so frantic in their movement that using magic would put you at a huge disadvantage. The bosses in the base game and the expansion are incredibly varied and have a wide range of movesets. The ability to change your build throughout your playthrough is also a huge benefit. Some games allow you to change your build on the fly and experiment with whatever you want. Elden Ring works a little differently. You actually have to find these items in the world. They're called larval tears, and they allow you to respec your character, and there's only a certain amount of them. So it does allow you to experiment, but it does still retain that kind of hard choice that you have to make in terms of what kind of character you want to play. And also means that your choices actually matter because there's a limited number of times that you can actually respec your character and try different things. So that point into dexterity might make all the difference. And then there's also Melania, who my therapist says I need to stop talking about and I need to move on. But I wasted 4 months of my life with that dying over and over and over again and building to a rage I didn't even think was possible. But where was I? Oh yeah. So the gameplay of Elden Ring can be broken into 3 simple areas: attack, dodge roll, and timing is everything, and learning boss behaviors and attack patterns is key to slaying some of the epic foes in this game. It's an addictive gameplay loop, because it also doesn't feel cheap. If I was having a hard time on the boss or I just couldn't quite get their moveset down, I could just go level up a little bit more or take a break and come back and try it later. And oftentimes, after leveling up a little bit, being able to dish out a little bit more damage, not only did it make killing the boss easier, but it also made survival easier, which then gave you a little bit more time to kind of figure the fight out as you went. Sometimes taking a step back from a boss fight means you can return with a little bit more perspective and also a little bit more sleep. Boss fights are all about the dance, and it can be glorious when you finally beat a boss. Except Melania, because she is bullshit, and it's the most bullshit boss fight I've ever done. Cheap bullshit moves that are impossible to dodge, and sorry, I got distracted again. In most games, when you look out upon the vastness of the world, it's usually just a pretty picture, and it's all an illusion. You can't actually go there. It's just a nice looking skybox. Ah, Destiny, I'm looking at you. But Elden Ring says, hold my beer. If you can see it, you can go there in some capacity. Emergent gameplay is the fun, swanky technical term I'd use to describe progression through the world and the game. You see something interesting, you go there. Happens all the time while playing. You're on a self-imposed mission to go to a map marker you laid down, but you stumble upon a cave or the entrance to a building that suddenly leads to a massive underground section of the map you didn't even know existed, and now you spent 4 hours getting sidetracked into an area you didn't even know was in the game. Not only is the idea of being able to go to the things you see in the distance a graphical marvel, it makes exploring the world a truly interesting experience. It's really hard to describe the feeling this evokes. Those that have played the game will know what I'm talking about. One area where I think Elden Ring falls short is the depiction of its story, or rather, its lack thereof. The lore in this game is deep and interesting. The story is presented by NPCs that you talk to, but a lot of times it's presented in riddles, and there's pieces of lore you can pick up here and there through books that you read and scraps of paper, but you have to put it together yourself, and if you're more clever than me, you can piece together what the heck is happening in the world and why you're running around doing all these murders.
I'll just leave the knife here, in case you have to do other murders.
When you have to go to YouTube specifically to understand what the heck is going on in the game, you're maybe not telling your story as effectively as you could be. I finished the base game, and I could only barely tell you what the game was actually about. A quest journal will go a long way to easing some of the issues here. And we don't need to go full World of Warcraft here with like quest text and all that. But at the bare minimum, a journal to show you who you've talked to or the conversations you've had, so you could actually kind of form some cohesive through line of the game's story and the narrative. A simple book that gets filled in as you speak to NPCs or pick up items of interest or pick up pages or books. That would be amazing. As it is now, you can easily miss entire quest lines in the game if you aren't fully paying attention, or in my case, not even realize you're actively doing a quest because you spoke to an NPC one time 10 hours ago. Whew. It's exhausting just thinking about it. Story and questing, not Elden Ring's strong suits. Or rather, not Fromsoftware's strong suits. I know many will argue that the story is awesome and if you just pay attention, blah blah blah. But it's poorly told, plain and simple. Shadow of the Erdtree doesn't do much to fix this. If you weren't paying attention in the base game, you'll have even less idea of what the heck's going on in the expansion. The expansion does add one interesting thing though. It adds an inventory mode that shows you what you recently picked up. So, I guess we've got that, right? But still, the story is kind of this obtuse thing that is just there and is not really well laid out. It's interesting if you want to go looking for it. I would have loved a little bit more of a traditional through line with like some story beats and, you know, just something to grasp onto. That would have made this game an 11 out of 10 for me. But you know what isn't poorly done? The incredible art design and sound work. As we've been talking about the grand sense of adventure in Elden Ring, one thing that should be pretty clear now is just how beautiful this game is. There are moments in Elden Ring that are just simply jaw-dropping. When I read fantasy fiction, or dark fantasy especially, this is what I'm thinking of. This is what's in my head. The art in the game seems like it was pulled straight out of my brain. Something it does really well is encapsulates the beauty of rotting and festering worlds that were once opulent. When you emerge from the underground in the opening of the game, you can see this massive golden tree in the distance, not just giving the illusion of a large world, but loudly proclaiming this world is big. And remember, if you can see it, you can go to it. And you do, at some point, get to that tree. There are definitely times when Elden Ring doesn't look amazing and the technology falls apart a little bit, but those times are few and far between. Every large vista and open space is rendered with such care. I can't imagine how difficult it was to make these long draw distances in this game work so well and perform reasonably well. Fromsoftware has a truly incredible art team at their disposal. The sheer variety of locations in Elden Ring is astounding. Cold, wintry biomes, lush, blue-hued lakes, harsh, stormy castles, putrid swamps, and grotesque red-hued deserts. If I had to summarize Elden Ring's graphical style in a sentence, it would be an imposing castle fortress atop a hill. A motif you see again and again and again in the game, but one that never seems to get old and always delivers on that massive sense of scale. If Elden Ring is the cake, then Shadow of the Erdtree is icing that really makes this cake artisanal. The expansion is the perfect companion to the base game. The color palettes are gorgeous and somehow just different enough to evoke a very different feeling. And it has what is easily the most color-saturated zone in the entirety of the base game and the expansion. Sometimes I'm running around hacking, slashing, and doing things in the world that I sometimes just forget to stop and listen. The score is fittingly epic and grandiose. It never really overstays its welcome and is really solid all the way through. It's especially awesome when you start a boss fight and it ramps up, keeping everything feeling really intense. I don't know if I would put the score in my top 10, but when you hear that opening music in the title screen, you know exactly what game you're playing. It is iconic. Just listen to this music in the final fight of the base game. Absolutely incredible. The sound is also incredibly well done. Swords crunching against foes, armor clinking as characters walk, terrifying bearers screaming at you before they pummel you into the next life. I highly recommend a good pair of headphones to hear the music and those hard-hitting sound effects.
Oh, our producer, Glenn, is gesturing to us from the technician's booth, and it looks like very good. He's telling us to wrap it up.
I guess that's all the time we have today, Terry.
And I didn't even get to mention all these things. Multiplayer, enemy variety, PvP, the arena, your double jumping horse torrent, that bullshit Melania fight. Optional bosses, the leveling system, the scatter tree system in the Shadow of the Erdtree, crafting, the damn cookbooks, the terrible emo system, the awesome emo system, secrets, paintings, those devil lobsters, the sheer number of bosses. I mentioned the underground, but holy shit, it's big, and inventory management. There's so much more I could say about this incredible piece of art, but I've rambled on long enough, and
I hate goodbyes.
like my 4-month-long battle with Melania, it's finally over. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. If you liked this video, be sure to check out our Bloodborne video.
Oh my
as
god.
well.
I finally did it.